The NFL draft is never a for sure thing, even with can't miss prospects, and can be a franchise altering weekend for any NFL team. Star players bloom all the time and aren't necessarily top picks either. Every pick your team makes can significantly change the course of their franchise for the future, and sometimes these teams are just one pick away from a diamond in the rough, but instead wind up with a dud. Staying on this topic, we'll be looking at the last 5 drafts, excluding the 2019 draft, because it's too soon to tell whether these players will pan out or not, and finding the biggest whiff of each class. By this, I mean a subpar player exactly one pick before a great football player, and how this could have potentially changed their franchise. Before I get started though, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. To start, we're going back to the 2014 draft, and there were a few selections I was considering going with, like Anthony Barr after Justin Gilbert and Davante Adams after Troy Nicholas, but neither of these were quite as big of whiffs as the one I chose when the Bills selected Sammy Watkins just one pick before the Raiders took Khalil Mack. The reasoning why I went with this is because while Anthony Barr and Davante Adams are good and consistent Pro Bowlers, they aren't first-team All-Pro at 2 positions Khalil Mack level good. Looking back at this selection, the Bills had drafted E.J. Manuel in the first round the year before and clearly wanted to get him a number 1 option, as Watkins at Clemson was a big play waiting to happen and scouts had said he had world-class speed. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out, and 3 seasons and only 37 games later, the Bills shipped Watkins to the Rams for corner E.J. Gaines and a 2nd-round pick. Mack, on the other hand, is an absolute game disruptor and already has 4 Pro Bowls and has been selected to the first-team All-Pro 3 times, and even has an NFL Defensive Player of the Year award to his name. Next up is the 2015 draft, and there were plenty of options I could have went with, like the Giants drafting Eric Flowers at 9 and the Rams drafting Todd Gurley at 10, but I ultimately went with a 3rd-round selection when the Steelers took Sammy Coates at pick 87 and the Vikings took a franchise cornerstone in Danielle Hunter at pick 88. In the 3rd round and beyond, teams are looking for some rookie contribution, but they are mainly looking for guys that can be future starters or key role players over the course of a 16-game season. Sammy Coates' career in Pittsburgh lasted 2 seasons, and he played in only 21 games for them and had just 22 catches in those games. He also made pit stops in Cleveland and Houston in 2017 and 2018, and in those games caught just 13 passes over the course of 2 seasons. Danielle, on the other hand, started out as a rotational rusher and played sparingly in 2015 and recorded 6 sacks as the then youngest player in the NFL. Since then, he became the youngest player to reach 50 career sacks and had the most career sacks before turning the age of 25. Had the Steelers drafted Danielle instead of a complete bust that's now an XFL player, their pass rush would be even better than it already is. Moving on to the 2016 draft, and this was a lot harder than the previous ones, as the Lions took defensive tackle A'Shawn Robinson in the 2nd round over Michael Thomas, and the Broncos took defensive tackle Adam Gostis over Titans safety Kevin Byard a little later. Ultimately, I went with the Ravens selecting Kenneth Dixon just one pick before the Cowboys took Dak Prescott in the 4th round. Dixon, who isn't on the team anymore and is currently a free agent, has 715 rushing yards in his career and 4 rushing touchdowns. Dak, on the other hand, is a 2-time Pro Bowler, won the Rookie of the Year award, and has over 110 career touchdowns in less than 4 seasons. Dak has a career record of 38-23 and has been a big reason as to why the Cowboys have been so good over the past few years. Now, whether or not he is the Cowboys starting quarterback next year, he will get paid by somebody this offseason and prove to be a huge day 3 steal for the Cowboys. The Ravens ended up getting a quarterback better than Dak a few years later in Lamar Jackson, but Dak was a huge steal for the Cowboys and has panned out significantly better for them than Kenneth Dixon did the Ravens. Next is the 2017 draft, and this is by far the easiest one to do for this video. No disrespect to Christian McCaffrey, as I could have chose him with wide receiver Mike Williams being drafted just 1 pick ahead of him. And in a normal class, this would be completely okay because Christian is an MVP candidate and Mike Williams is not that good. But the difference between those players is nothing compared to John Ross at number 9 overall and Chiefs franchise quarterback Patrick Mahomes at 10th overall. John Ross is a bust, and in nearly 3 seasons has just 39 catches for 566 yards, while Patrick Mahomes already has an MVP at 24 years old to his name and nearly took the Chiefs to a Super Bowl in his first year starting. There cannot be enough good things said about Mahomes, and had the Bengals taken him over Ross, their franchise would be completely different, and I'm sure they wouldn't be 1-12 competing for Joe Burrow in the 2020 draft. I don't think Mahomes would have had the same success in Cincy as he had in Kansas City, because I truly do think Pat went to the best place for him, but there's no way Cincinnati would be this atrocious. The last class we'll look at is the 2018 draft class, and this is a lot tougher than it initially seems, because the team that selected before the Ravens took Lamar was the New England Patriots. The obvious answer is to do this selection, as the Pats took Sony Michel just one pick before, but Lamar wouldn't have received any playing time in 2018 due to Tom. The Pats won the Super Bowl in Lamar's rookie season, and the difference between Tom and Lamar is about as far of a difference there can be at the quarterback position. So instead of going with that pick because New England is still a dynasty, I'm going with the Steelers taking James Washington in the second round, just one pick ahead of DJ Chark from the Jags. The Steelers are consistently a good team, and James Washington has largely been a bust in 2019, aside from a few games he's put together in the past 7 weeks or so. I drafted him in a lot of leagues, thinking he would have a Juju-type second season, but that clearly wasn't the case for Washington, and through 13 games he has just one game at or above 5 receptions. Chark, on the other hand, has broke out in a big way in his second year. He is going to hit 1,000 receiving yards, and he already has 8 touchdowns on the year, which is more than Julio Jones and Odell Beckham combined. Chark has been doing this with Gardner Minshew and has proved to be a breakout player in 2019. Had the Steelers chose Chark over Washington, there's a real possibility they could have beat the Ravens back in Week 5, as it would have been another weapon to deal with and taken some focus off of the initial game plan. Not only that, but Washington had just 2 catches for 14 yards in a game against San Francisco that was just a 4-point loss. And I'm not saying that if Chark is on the Steelers they win, but they very easily could have. Had they chose Chark over Washington, they might be a 10-3 team instead of an 8-5 team. Anyway, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Again, thank you for watching, and have a great day. Skol Vikes.